Have you ever wondered, how do I get my team to be more accountable, to take more ownership? Maybe you've wondered, how do I get away from telling my people every move to make and answer every question over and over? Do you have a vision for your business and you'd like to be able to get your team on board with that vision? Would you like to create a culture of accountability where your team just handles things autonomously? Well, that's what this episode is all about. You're listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast, where it's all about systematizing your construction business to eliminate chaos, maximize profit, freedom, and impact. My name is Todd Dawalt, and my team and I have helped over 400 construction companies eliminate chaos, grow their profits, and grow their team. In this episode, here's what you're going to learn about. Some of the misconceptions about being a leader that could keep you stuck. There's a simple mindset shift that will allow you to delegate results instead of delegating tasks. And you'll learn about the leadership unlock that automatically creates a culture of accountability, which very few people know about. I wish I had learned about this probably 15 years sooner. And there's one surprising realizations that a lot of our clients have after implementing these strategies, one that completely shifts the way they lead. We'll get into that later in the episode. So if you're ready to get out of the weeds and build a business, build a team that runs without you, stick around. This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast. Enjoy. Leyah and Monish, welcome back to the podcast. Good to have you guys on here. Been a little bit since we've done a team podcast. Let's take a minute and I'll let each of you introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about what you do here at Construction Leading Edge, maybe a little bit about your background. Leyah, would you like to go first?
I'm Leyah Hostetter. I've been in the home building industry really my whole life. My dad's a contractor and continued on beyond doing work with him to working for some large production builders. So I've had a lot of experience in the industry, and my role here is I primarily lead the SYCB program and really enjoy getting to work with our clients and helping them put systems and processes in place.
And you do a fantastic job. We love to hear from our clients who've gone through that program, their results, how it's changed their business. So I know they're very appreciative of the work you do, and I certainly am too. Monish, how about you? Would you mind introducing yourself, talk a little bit about your background and what you do here?
So my name is Monish Khadye. Got on, I think, 20 years worth of experience in construction, right from the trades all the way through to owning. My wife and I owning our own business, doing design and build. And I've been now coaching for, I think, 2.5 years or just over, predominantly the CEO Alliance program, which is more of a long-term within Construction Leading Edge. And yeah, it's fun. I get to do the 20% where I can add the most value to most of these business owners. And
so for folks, if you join our ecosystem, you would start off in the Systematize Your Construction Business program with Leyah. And then for the select few that move on and work with us long-term, that would be the CEO Alliance program with Monish. So I appreciate everything you guys do. Again, love Monish, love hearing CEO Alliance member results. We have a live meetup coming up in a couple of weeks with most of our CEO Alliance members. That's always a blast to meet up with them. And then you're going to be traveling back in time to the States from Australia. And I appreciate you fighting through that jet lag to be in Miami with us. So let's jump into it. We want to talk about leadership and delegation. So this episode is for you. If you want to get better at leadership, if you are a construction business owner or in a leadership position and you want the 20%, what are the simple things you can do that will give you the most leverage for leadership? The good news is you don't have to be born as a George Washington or an Abraham Lincoln or some great leader. It's not genetic. The good news is these are things you can learn. And they are skills that can be developed. And I think that's one of the misconceptions people have is, well, I either got it or I don't. And I wasn't born a leader. And that guy or that gal just has more charisma or something I don't have. So let's talk about some misconceptions. What are some of the most common misconceptions or thinking traps when it comes to leadership that maybe you've specifically seen in your work with our clients, construction business owners? Leyah, what do you think?
Not maybe particularly with our clients, but I think a lot of people equate leadership with titles. And so they think if I don't have a specific title, I can't be a leader. But my personal belief is if you affect even one other person or influence even one other person, you're a leader. So what that means is every one of us has the ability to be a leader and to be a good leader. So it doesn't matter what your title is. You don't have to own a construction business company, but you can still be a leader. You have that ability.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think some people would say, well, maybe it's the misconception is, well, when I get a title or I get a position, then I'll become a leader. But the reality is you can lead from wherever you are. Monish, what about you? What do you think are some misconceptions about leadership that keep people stuck?
I think just, adding on to that, if there's people that don't think of themselves as leaders, if you're a construction business owner, by default, you are a leader, even if you have 0 employees, because you're leading clients, subs, trade partners, whatever. And people that do have employees and a team under them, and, they tend to think that there's the old saying that, leaders lead by example. And so they think that they need to be the best carpenters. They need to be the best project managers, the best designers, whatever your business structure is, so that others can be like them. And that's not particularly the case. To be a great leader, it's about assembling the best team of whoever is best at what they're doing. And, sometimes, or majority of the times, ideally, they're doing their jobs better than what you could do in that role. Your job is then to lead these group of people together instead of doing their jobs.
What's the problem with that mindset of thinking, well, I have to be the best carpenter, estimator, project manager? How does that get in the way of leaders?
Well, you stay in that job, right? You never make the transition to being a CEO because you've never thought of yourself as a CEO. You're out there trying to prove to your team that you do their job better than they do and trying to show them that they need to be as good as you are. But your role is to be a CEO, and you probably need to question yourself, how well are you doing that job?
There's a mindset or a belief that I've heard a lot. It goes something like, a good leader would never ask their team to do something they wouldn't do themselves. Yeah, what do you think, Monish? And then Leyah, you can share what you think.
And this may just be a personal thing. Anything I don't want to do, I delegate, right? So for me to say that, it'd be the exact opposite. I want to delegate anything that I don't want to do. And to be a good leader, first of all, you need to be a good delegator.
I think that's more of a character demonstration than anything, because what Monish is saying is absolutely true. Smart and good leaders are going to delegate to people the things that they're not very good at, the things that they don't like to do. And in the same breath, I'm going to say that I think that quote really is saying, what is the character of your leadership? If you're an arrogant leader who thinks that you're above doing these other things, and I don't think that's what Monish is saying, are you really a leader? I think the point is, are you willing to be in that with your team and to get the things done that you need to get done? But in that same aspect, you have to be smart in your leadership. So I think it's kind of a little bit of both.
I agree. I don't think it's arrogance. I think for most people, it's their comfort zone. You can be like, yeah, I've been a carpenter for 20 years and I own this business, but what I'm really good at is carpentry, not at running the business. And so they tend to kind of think of, I need to do more of what I'm good at, and the business will just grow. But that's not how it works. And so you need to identify that, all right, there's a set of skills that you're probably missing that you need to work on, and give away all the easy stuff that you find easy to do yourself, but you shouldn't be doing, to someone else.
The way I think about leadership is a leader does what's best for the team. They do what's best for the organization. Sometimes that means being willing to jump in and scrub toilets, for example, maybe if that's what's best for the organization. I'm not saying it is. In many cases, what's best for the organization is for the leader to get out of their comfort zone and take the tools off and delegate and be constantly uncomfortable by staying out of their comfort zone. So I think it's the way I think about it is what's best for the organization, what's best for the team. Sometimes it's for you to jump in and do that thing. Sometimes it's for you to delegate that thing. I think what a lot of people do is they do what's best for them. They do what's most comfortable or fun or easy for them. And that keeps a lot of people stuck. Let's give some people some practical tools, some things they can do to become a better leader. Here's the question we want to answer. What are some practical tools or systems I can use to delegate results to my team without everything falling back on me? Where a lot of small business owners are, especially construction business owners, is they're carrying all of this weight, all the responsibility is on them. They're like Atlas carrying this massive rock or the weight of the world on their shoulders. And they're wondering, how can I delegate results to my team instead of telling everybody what to do so everything doesn't fall back on me? So what are some practical tools or systems for delegating results? Leyah, what do you think?
One of the systems I often lean back on when it comes to leadership is it's Franklin Covey's 4 Rules of Leadership. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not. I'm just going to give you a super high level. First is modeling. So you have to lead by example. And I think all of us would agree to that, right? Who you are and the type of leadership that you are, you can't expect your team to do something different than that type of leadership. So there's that. Then it's pathfinding, and that's defining the vision and the direction. We talk a lot about that as well. Then it's alignment, and this is creating the systems and processes so your team can be successful. And finally, it's empowering, and going back to what you just said with delegation, this is delegating effectively to develop your team. Those are the 4 roles of leadership. I feel like that's been disseminated down in a really easy way to understand leadership.
What's an example of one system that you teach our clients that helps them to delegate results?
So if we're using those 4 core roles, it's the alignment. I mean, that is what SYCB is all about, is creating those systems and processes so that your company runs efficiently and effectively. And without having those processes and systems in place, it's pretty difficult to delegate to someone on your team to say, hey, this is what you are accountable for. But how do they know? What are the guardrails for them to know how they're going to be successful in that? So I think that is so foundational to business and business success, is to have those in place so everybody knows how to run the business well.
There are a few things in SYCB that we teach that our clients delegate results, like the accountability chart, developing that, having documented processes, the big 5. Which specific tool comes to mind as something that you feel like helps people delegate results to their team?
I think the accountability chart paired with the big 5, because those two really do go together. What we're doing is we're helping our clients to identify what's the team that you need for your business. What are the positions? And then what are those positions accountable for? And wrapped up in that are, what are the big 5? What are the main outcomes or results that you want from that position? So just simply walking a client through that, and we do it in a visual way. We're on a Zoom call together, and I'm able to kind of help them see that visually. That exercise, I can't tell you how many people at the end of that go, oh my gosh, now I finally get it. Now I can kind of see how this is being divided, how there's these different functions, or departments might be another word you could use. And then there's different positions within that function. And now I know exactly what this position is responsible for. And likewise, to the CEO that I'm usually working with, I challenge them to consider, what are your big 5? In 2 years, what do you want to be doing? And what is your main role that you are accountable for? And I think sometimes they forget to think about that, especially as they're creating this team and developing their business.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What do you want this thing to look like? What do you want your role to look like in the future? And that's a tough question for people to answer. It's really hard for people to say, what do you want? I find they know what they don't want, but it's really tough for them to answer that question. What do you want? And then let's design it around that. Manish, what do you think? What are some practical tools or systems people can use to delegate results to their team?
I think one of the things Leyah mentioned, as a CEO, where do you see yourself in 2, maybe 5 years? And where do you see the business in 5 years as well? And one of the tools we use is the strategic planning guide to go through that and look at what is your 5-year vision and break that down to the next 12 months. Because as a leader, if you don't know where you're going yourself, how are you going to lead the team? Most construction CEOs, and not all of them, but most of them, the marketing plan is non-existent. And the sales plan is whenever calls us, we'll just say yes to whatever they need, and we'll go through and do that, right? And what that means is you're always pinballing different project types, different client types, etc. If you've got a vision of what you want your business to be like 2 years, 5 years from now, you can then start saying no to the things that distract you. And once you clarify that vision to the rest of the team, they then also have those powers to start being a lot more productive in the direction that everyone wants to go in.
Yeah, I want to talk about how do you articulate the vision. We'll get to that question in a few minutes, because you're right. That's where it starts. But when it comes to, I'm curious, in your business, when you were running your business and you developed or you implemented a lot of these systems in your business, how did you delegate results to your team? Was there a specific tool or a method that helped you instead of delegating tasks like do this, do this, do this? Was there something that helped you get to a point where you could delegate results and outcomes to your team? So what was that?
For the first 2 years, our business was exactly like that. Just say yes to anyone about anything because we were still trying to, make it as a business. And then working with you, we did one of the first early on things was the Nail the Handoff session after doing a strategic planning guide. Doing the Nail the Handoff session with the rest of the team helped me get on the same page with my team, start looking at things from their perspective, and actually not just give them, delegate a task or a result to them, but also the ownership of that result. So together we could see, all right, how do we make pre-construction easier, smoother, more streamlined, not just for me as the business owner, but also for you guys who have to go in and actually do everything. How can we make that handoff seamless so that during construction, there's not as much stress. We're not working reactively. Things aren't going wrong all the time. And so that was a big part, like me actually bringing the team in and going, hey, you're a part of this company and let's roll out some of your ideas. The end goal is, we want a high rating, a customer satisfaction rating from the client. We want to make 20% profit. We want to do these specific type of jobs. And so to get those jobs, we need good referrals from our current clients. And so all the nitty gritty things, how we do things on a day-to-day basis, it was actually my team that came up with those solutions. It wasn't me.
The progression it used to be, go do this task, and then I'll manage the results. And then there's delegating results to people. But what you're saying is the way you delegated results and outcomes to your team was to get them involved and say, hey, you guys, here's what we need to accomplish. How do you want to get it? How do you want to accomplish that? And getting them to take ownership in the process. Yeah, I think that's the secret sauce to that. Maybe this goes back to the misconceptions. What I've seen with a lot of people is they feel like they hold all of the accountability and they have to tell people what to do. And the reality is the best way to get the result you want is to let go of control in the right way and involve your team in the process.
A good simplification of that is, I used to delegate the how and the what, and I knew the why. And it got to a point where all I had to do was share the why with my team and let them come up with the how and the what.
That's a great way to put it. Leyah, what have you seen in your work? You help our clients through the Nail the Handoff process. What sort of results have you seen with teams taking ownership for results instead of just being responsible for tasks?
We've seen this happen quite a bit where a lot of our clients come in and they're exceptional carpenters or they're exceptional, whatever it is that their trade is. They're really, really good at that. But to shift over to being a leader and to be a business owner is difficult for them. And I think this process, going through the Nail the Handoff team session, is where things maybe start to shift for them, where they are inviting their team in and they're saying, what do you guys think? And that's really how we guide it. We could certainly say, hey, this is the process, go plug into your business, make it work. But that doesn't work. What we do is we guide our clients on how to engage with their team to create the process that works for them. And that is one of the biggest things that we're guiding them on is invite your team into this, because that is the magic sauce. Once they are a part of the process, they're more bought into it. They take ownership for it. It's theirs. They own it. It's not something that was dictated to them. And I think that helps to shift a lot of our guys and gals from the person who's really good at framing to being, I'm an actual business owner now. And that is a leap and that takes a mindset shift. But I think that's when they start to see it and to visualize it. And then of course they have the support and the accountability from us and the calls that we have. And I think they really start to see it then. But it's pretty obvious when they're able to pull their team together how that can work.
We'll get back to the episode in just a minute. Think about these two questions. First, do you have a clear, actionable plan? In other words, a strategy for your business for the next 12 months. Second, does your team know exactly where you're headed and how you plan to get there. If your business was a road trip, are you just driving aimlessly without a map, hoping you'll get there, or do you have a clear destination and a route? If your business was a football team, are you just running around the field without a game plan, playing pickup ball, or do you have a strategy to win the game, like the pros do? Here's the reality. As the leader, it's your job to create the strategy, and your team is counting on you for that. If you'd like some help with that, for a limited time, you can download our free strategic planning guide. It's the same guide that has helped hundreds of construction business owners gain clarity, set clear goals, and be able to communicate a winning strategy to their teams. In just 60 to 90 minutes, you'll map out your plan for the next year. No more guessing, no more drifting. And it's the first step toward designing the business that you want. In fact, it's the first step in our Systematize Your Construction Business program. If you want to get your hands on that, head over to constructionleadingedge.com/planning, PLANNING, to download your free strategic planning guide. Stop running around in circles. Stop just treading water. Get clarity on the vision and direction of your company. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/planning and download your free strategic planning guide today. Okay, next question. We mentioned vision. Here's the question I've heard a lot. Something along the lines of, I want to align my team around a clear vision. Maybe even my team is asking, what's the vision? Where are we headed? Where are we going? So the question is, how do I figure out what the vision is, and then how do I articulate that to my team? Monish, what do you think? What are some practical ways for people to figure out what the vision is and then articulate that to their team?
When you start talking about things like vision, people think about these large corporations that their vision is they want to make the world a better place. And you're like, well, what does that mean? How does that apply to me? I'm doing 2 million in construction. When it comes to that, it's usually, like I said, again, going back to a strategic planning guide, it's based on reflective questions that you as a business owner go through and answer to figure out. It's not just one question that, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Very open-ended, right? But it's about what type of people do you see yourself working with? What type of clients, what type of projects, what job values, and so forth. And so it's not just one single answer to one single question. Your vision is usually finding out all these minor details and then compiling it together. And then that's what goes across to the rest of your team.
I think that's going back to misconceptions. People think, well, my vision statement needs to be like a corporate statement, like something hanging on the walls of the Dunder Mifflin paper office, which is complete BS, and it's just word salad that's meaningless. Why do people need a vision? Why can't we just say, hey, come to work, you'll get paid, do your job. You don't need, we don't need to go anywhere. Why does there need to be an articulated vision to the team?
Well, like I said before, if you don't know where you want to go, how are you going to lead someone else there? If that's staying here, we've figured out what our genius zone is. Even just to stay here, how do you kind of configure the rest of your team to, all right, don't get distracted by other things. Whatever you're doing isn't going. This is what we need to do. So you need to actually have that vision for that and translate it across. And if you don't have one, and we've had people that have come through that are second or third generation business owners, which is great, like in terms of sustainability of that business. But there's always someone new popping up, and they've figured out what they want to do, and they've figured out a gap in the market. They might now start stealing your market share because you became complacent and you didn't adapt. So you have to kind of see there's the internal environment, but then also there's the external environment that's constantly changing. And so you have to adapt and change with it. And you need a vision to help you do that.
Why should somebody take the effort to answer the uncomfortable questions? What do I want? And develop a vision? What's in it for them to do that?
Well, I think the reality is there are people out there who will just show up and get paid and go home. But they are not A players. And as a business owner, you want A players on your team. You want people who are going to rally around the same thing and who want to do the best that they can do. And without some type of a vision, well, I'll back this up by saying people want to feel seen, heard, and become a part and be a part of something. That's the vision, right? And so you as the leader, if you can't articulate what that vision is and bring people into it, you're probably going to have that revolving door of people who are going to come and just take a paycheck and move on. But that is, I mean, at least with all the clients that we've worked with, none of them want that, right? They want the A players. They want to build a team around something that matters. And sometimes I think it's difficult for an owner to come up with what that is. There's a lot of things online that can help you figure that out. I know Simon Sinek's Start With Why is a really great inspirational thing to think about. But I think there's also value if you go back to that being seen and heard. You can also invite your team into what that vision is. So at the end of the day, when you're the leader, you have to take a hard stand on things. And that doesn't always mean that everybody gets their way necessarily, like kind of the buck stops with you. But you can also invite your team into what that could look like. And I think that kind of goes back again to that team session. If you're involving your team on what this is, and then we're all running in the same direction, you're going to go a lot faster and you're going to do it with a lot more profitability.
It was probably 20 years ago. I was managing projects for Procter & Gamble, one of the biggest companies in the world. And I remember going to one of their facilities, and it was the pharmaceutical facility. And in the lobby was this 30-foot high wall, large waiting area. And on this wall was a graphic display of all of the products that had been created in the pharmaceutical division. Obviously, there were things like, Crest and, but then there were all of these medications that had been developed that were changing people's lives. And here I was there to look at a revolving door replacement project as a project manager. But I thought, you know what? It feels pretty good to be part of something that matters. Like, I am part of this thing that's much bigger than me, that's having an impact on people's lives. And I believe people want that. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And articulating the vision helps to do that. It helps answer the question, why are we doing this? Why do we exist? Where are we going? And I think it's really important to share something. And Leyah, I think you're right. This is another thing. You don't have to just go into your fortress of solitude and develop and fully develop and bring out to your team. It's something you can develop with your team. And what better way to get them bought into the vision for your organization than to help them define it? It doesn't have to be something you do yourself. Yeah, that's great.
And I think it can change too. Like, you don't want a goalpost that's constantly changing, but as your business evolves and changes and grows, your vision can too. So, I think it's always wise to do some type of a business audit about once a year just to kind of check in. Hey, are we still on track with a lot of things, not just the vision, but that's one of them. And if your business sees exponential growth, that vision may change. So that's just another opportunity to pull everyone together again and be like, hey, is this still the target? Where do we want to go now? So I think it can be something that we shouldn't be afraid of shifting that too. It can change as the business evolves.
So for people wondering, all right, what's a practical tool I can use for articulating the vision? A really simple one that I found to be very successful is to think of a story of impact. There's a story one of our clients, Alex Gregg, shares. They built a home for a family, and he ran into the father, the husband and father who built the home a few years later, and things were a little bit contentious at the end, and Alex was a little bit concerned. But when they ran into each other at a restaurant, this man was incredibly grateful because they had a special needs daughter, and this home was designed for handicap accessibility, and it just completely changed her life. So that was a story of impact. And Alex was able to share that with this team and say, hey, this is why we do what we do. This is the impact that we're having on people's lives. So whatever work you're doing and you want to articulate the vision, think about, who are we having an impact on? It could be an employee. It could be a philanthropy that you're supporting. But if you can share a story of how you're impacting somebody's life, that's what gets people excited. That answers the question, okay, why are we doing this? Practical tool, think of a story of impact. It doesn't have to be life-changing, but people want to know that they're having an impact on people's lives.
Well, and I want to add to that, it could be your own life too. If you've had a construction business that hasn't been as profitable as it should be, that's probably holding back your family, your kids or whatever from having a better life potentially. And there's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I want to make more money so that I can provide a better environment or a better circumstance. And it doesn't have to be, because I get that with larger companies, they're looking for that meaning that's beyond the basic financial needs. But for construction business owners that are kind of struggling financially, just start with that. Just go, all right, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, a year from now, I simply want to make more than enough money that I need so I can pay my bills and whatever and stay afloat, not just in the business, but also in personal life. I want to save up so my kids can go to college or whatever the thing might be. And then tie that vision back to the business and how can the business actually help me get to those goals? That could be a big part of it too. Your employees probably have similar needs, right? Basic needs. Just start with that.
Years ago, we talked about you had a performance review process and you asked your employees, hey, what are some of your goals? Which you're sort of asking them, why do you want to work here? What do you want to accomplish? And there were things like, I remember one of them saying, one of you guys said, I want to be able to buy a house. I want to take some classes and some things like that. So it was their personal why and their personal vision. And that's really powerful too. So maybe that's something else we can do is help your team find out, hey, why do you want to succeed here? What's your personal vision for this job? Yeah, that's really good. Okay, next question. How do I create a team that operates more autonomously and gets results instead of me telling people every move to make? It's one thing to delegate some structures and we're going to design the business so people have accountability, but how do I create a team that just runs like a well-oiled machine and it runs autonomously and I don't even have to tell people what to do? What are some practical ways to do that? Monish, what do you think?
Well, one of the biggest things that we used was a daily crew planner. And we had that printed out. My guys had that in their trucks in a bound book. And so they, as individuals, carpenters and even our apprentice, they were able to look at the day ahead, make a plan of what tools do they need? Do they need to contact anyone else to, any other trades or whatever? What materials do they need? And they could get organized for the day ahead. Just that one little exercise saved me so much headache in phone calls, at 10 a.m. Yeah, we don't have the stuff we need. We're going to have to either get it delivered or go for a drive or whatever. And that times how many employees you've got every single day can be a pain in the ass. So that one tool just changed it quite substantially.
So giving them a tool to prompt them to plan tomorrow's work today. Have you seen some results from our clients? Have you heard of any of our clients getting results from either the daily crew planner or something like that?
So with our clients, so they've rolled all them out as well. And the daily crew planners helped them actually configure who can now step up to the next role as a site super, because they've seen some people do them exceptionally well and then not just do them for the next day, but, maybe do them for the next few days or even start doing 2-week look-aheads. And so it helps you identify, all right, there's one or two individuals here that are management material. They enjoy looking ahead and planning ahead. And obviously when, the individuals on your team plan ahead, it's a better day for them as well. It just flows instead of them having to stop and start. And a couple of our clients have actually promoted people based on them using these tools and saying, hey, I think you've got what it takes to be a site super.
Leyah, how about you? How would you answer the question? How do I create a team that operates more autonomously without me having to tell them what to do?
I always talk about trust, but you got to trust the people that you hired to do the job that you hired them to do. You need to trust them and then let go. And what that really does is, ultimately, if you've hired good people, trust them to do the job that you hired them for. Micromanagement, it will kill productivity. It will kill innovation because people just feel like they don't have the autonomy to do anything. And so coupled with that, I think it's wise to take a step back in your leadership and consider, okay, how are people coming to me? Like, are they consistently asking questions? Okay, so what's at the root of that? Is it that I don't have a solid system in place for them to follow? Is it that they need more training? Is it that they lack confidence? Because there's always a reason why. So finding out what that is and then shifting back over to that person and saying, hey, I hired you to do this job. I trust you to do this job. Here are all the tools to help you be successful in this job. go do it. You have the autonomy to do that. So I think there are some aspects there to take a look at some stuff. So an example from a client, I had one the other day where they said they have a really great person in the field who's super enthusiastic about the job. They're really excited about it, but they're constantly calling them like 20 calls a day, just asking question after question. And then sometimes they'll just come into the office and hang out for like an hour because they just like to be around people and they want to talk. And the guidance I gave him is I said, well, you don't want to kill that enthusiasm. That's huge, right? You don't always get that from someone. So what you can do is frame it in a way that you're going to help them understand how we need to be productive and how we can be efficient at this. And I still really value you and what you're bringing to the table with this, so talk to him about, well, what if you frame it like, hey, I love how excited you are about this. And we need to get stuff done here. So what if you kept a list of all of your questions and you called me at the beginning of the day at 10 and at the end of the day at 3? So you have 2 opportunities to connect with me and ask me all your questions, just some things like that. So in that case, that's someone who's really excited, but maybe you have someone who's not so motivated. What are some ways that you could help them too? And a lot of this, it really does go back to being a good leader and helping your people, leading them in the way that they need so that they can move on and do their job in a most effective and efficient way and have the autonomy to do it.
We'll get back to the show in just a second. If you're a construction business owner, let me ask you this. Are you feeling trapped in your business? Maybe you can't take a real vacation without being on call 24/7. Or when you finally do step away, there's going to be a mess waiting for you to clean up when you get back. Or maybe the constant stress of putting out fires and carrying all the responsibility and making all the decisions is keeping you up at night. And you're worried about losing a good employee, or it's affecting your health, or worse, it's keeping you from being present with your family. What if instead you could finally step back from the day-to-day chaos, take back control of your time, and build a business that runs profitably and smoothly even when you're not there? If that sounds good, I'd like to invite you to book a free business evaluation call with my team. In just one call, we'll help you get crystal clear on 3 things: the root cause of the biggest problems in your business, the goals and vision you want to achieve for your company and your life, and we'll map out a personalized roadmap you can follow to make that vision a reality. Look, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners systematize their business so they can work less, earn more, and actually enjoy their lives. And we can help you too. But the first step, it's up to you. Head over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply to book your free call, or just click the link in the show notes. Don't wait until it's too late. Take the first step toward freedom today. All right, let's get back to the show. Monish, in that situation of somebody who's calling and asking questions all day long, I think you may have had a situation like that with one of your guys. How did you create autonomy for him?
Well, you helped me realize that it's probably a confidence issue or a lack of confidence in the guy, right? So to begin with, again, you've got to clarify what the job is, what they're doing, what they're supposed to do. Usually the questions are coming because the handoff wasn't good enough. There's details missing and, what should I do here? Because it's not on the plans, it's nowhere else. So we did improve on that part based on his feedback. But one of the biggest things was I just said, look, like Leyah said, there's these times during the day when I'm available and let's tee up a time to then talk then, and you have a list and we can go through. But don't just call me with problems, call me with what you think the solutions are to those problems, even if you've got multiple choices, right? And that went into him kind of thinking about it, coming up with a solution and saying, there's these 3 things we could do. This one costs more, but this one looks better for the client. And then I just left it up to him. I said, I trust your judgment. Just go with whatever you think is best and let's see what happens. And that led him to build that confidence and go, okay, I don't need to call him anymore because he's probably going to trust what I'm doing. I should trust what I'm doing and think through the option and go, all right, I'm going to go with this one. And 90% of the time he was right. And the 10% that he wasn't, it was a learning exercise for him. So then he knew, all right, next time I won't go with that solution. I'll go with something else.
How does having a documented process to follow create autonomy?
In that example, if someone had a question, ideally, then they're just going Control F and searching within that document. Because at some point, there will be an answer for it. And the best part is if there is no answer and a question gets raised because the information is missing in that documented process, you put it in so that question's never raised again.
If all of the answers are in your head, then your people have no option they have two options. They can guess or they can call you. I interviewed Cole West, one of our clients, a while back, and he said something that stuck with me. A great phrase, a great response, a script you can use when your team calls you and asks you a question. He had this script. He would say, "That's a great question. Is there some place you can look to find that answer?" And if the answer is yes, then you've just hopefully answered that question for the last time. If the answer is, "I looked and no, I can't find it," then now you have something to add to your documented process. So yeah, I think it's trust with the documented process, with clearly defined roles and responsibilities, and confidence. I've seen this so many times where there's so many questions. They're sometimes seen as this lack of, well, my people just don't take ownership and my people won't solve problems on their own. Well, it's because they don't have confidence. So it's easier safer actually, to just call the boss and let the boss make the decision. So
especially if the boss has no consistency with his decision.
Yeah.
He's just making stuff up on the spot.
Or loops are left open, right? They start down a pathway with something and nothing is ever, like, the communication doesn't get fully closed on a loop. So people are kind of left going, I don't really know what to do here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If the answer is different every time, then they have to ask. So it's sort of like if you had a band and nobody was confident that the other person was playing the same song, it's going to sound pretty
jazz.
It's all improv jazz, and maybe that sounds cool, but that improv jazz approach doesn't seem to work very well in construction, in my opinion. But I think that's a good way to look at it. It's like, everybody's out here just kind of doing their own thing. And my wife used to do Zumba, and everybody was supposed to be doing the same dances, but there was this little old lady who was probably 70 or 80 years old, and she just did whatever she wanted. And she was referred to as freestyle granny. She was just doing her own thing. Doesn't work so well in a business. So, all right, the last question we want to talk about: how do I create? What are some practical ways to foster a culture of accountability in my team?
I think clarity's first. People need to understand. And, this goes back to everything we've been talking about, having a solid accountability chart, people knowing what it is that's expected of them, and then following a process. That helps. Like, that just is basically your cheat sheet, right? to know what to do and how to do it. That holds you accountable. But without that, it's really hard to pin someone down to be like, did you do this thing? Did you not? Because they don't know. There's no clarity there. And then I think consistency is another thing. So we just barely talked about that. But if things are being changed constantly, then that's really difficult for someone to know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And then I think good communication is really important. So regular consistency and communication, I think, go together. Having very clear communication with your team, being able to consistently communicate with them where they're at in that, how they're doing, and having that follow-up opportunity, whether that's a weekly team meeting or a one-on-one meeting, so everyone is on the same page with things.
Monish, what do you think? What are some practical ways to foster a culture of accountability?
Begin with the ownership of the systems. So we had a CEO go through the program, and their company does site services, about 35-ish million worth. And, very intelligent guy. And he had all these very extremely rigid documents and forms and checklists that he thought were, the bee's knees. They were just the perfect things ever. And he was like, man, no one's using them. And it's so frustrating. Like, I have to keep, pushing my guys to make sure they're using them or whatever. And I was like, maybe your guys don't like them. And he was like, but these are great. What do you mean? And I was like, well, let's do a Nail the Handoff session and let's see how your team feels about it. And the team came out and said, first of all, there was no, like Leyah said, there was no clarity on who was actually supposed to follow what document at what point, right? So there was that. But then they also just said, look, most of this is not applicable or unnecessary, and it's just more effort to fill out every step of the way. And so, we recommended to them, let them create their own stuff. They know what they're doing. You've hired, you've made the right decision in hiring the right people. Let them create their own stuff. And it may not be a 10 out of 10 for you, but if that leads to them doing it, let's see how efficient it gets. And I shared his email with you that came through a couple months ago, but he's doing a lot less in the business, and the business is running a lot smoother, a lot better, because his team has ownership of their processes, which just automatically holds them accountable. If I created a process, I have no excuse to not use it. And it's the same with all your employees. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I think this is the best checklist that I want to use in my role, and you say, go ahead, 2 days later, if it's not filled out, what's their excuse? They don't have one. There probably is going to be a sense of pride that, hey, I created this and I want to make sure that I use this every single time. And I'm going to show everyone how good this is. So it begins with that. Let people take ownership of the process, creation of the process. You can be a reviewer. You can help them complete them, but don't take that back across from them. Let them do what they think needs to be done. As long as, like we said in the beginning, you've clarified the outcomes. This is the why. This is where we need to get to.
The leadership unlock here that we've seen is your job as a leader is to clearly articulate the why and then let go of the how. You may want to clearly define the what, the outcomes that you want to achieve, and then let go and delegate the how to your team. That's really, instead of you having to force accountability on people and you having to hold them accountable, you're creating this like a greenhouse where an environment where accountability thrives because people are saying, yeah, this is how I want to do it. Hey, I could do this. This is what I'm willing to commit to. That's how accountability is created. But when people say, I'll be accountable for that, I think that's the best way to create accountability. What have you guys seen? What are some of the results that you've seen from some of our clients, people who've done this, they've been at this for a year, 2 or 3, who have successfully articulated the vision and they've delegated their team? What are some of the results of some folks to share? Leyah, anybody come to mind?
I feel like it's kind of the same story that happens a lot. So I'm not thinking of anyone in particular, but so many folks, at the end of this, not even the end of the program, sometimes it's a little bit out once they've fully implemented this and handed things over. Their personal lives are so much better. It's no longer the chaos. I can sleep at night. I can spend time with my kids. I can take my wife out on dates now because I'm not the cog. I'm not the one that has to be responsible for everything. That is 100% because they've been able to delegate to team members that they trust and that they've empowered to do a great job. And we have had some clients, like literally on like the second week of the program, they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm handing that over to my implementer because they're way better at this than I am. And they're right. And I think that's also important too, is there are going to be things and parts of your business that you're not that great at. So give it to someone who's way better than you are. And you're going to probably make them happy because it's something they enjoy doing. And you don't have to do something you don't enjoy doing or that you're not great at.
The number of times someone's gone away on vacation after the Nail the Handoff session, and then they've come back and their team's created everything, and they've realized that, oh, maybe I was the problem. Oh, no, it happens more frequently than you think. So the accountability starts with you.
So maybe all of this was just a big lead up to say, you're the problem. And that's good news. The bad news is if you're having a leadership issue and accountability issue, the bad news is you're the problem. But that's also the good news because you have some measure of influence over yourself and you can do that. So the problem's not out there. It's probably the guy or the gal in the mirror that you see. So that's good news.
And look, in terms of tangible results, so we've had multiple clients increase their revenue anywhere between 30 to 100%. And their net profit is usually a multiplier of what it used to be because the business was so inefficient. And they've been able to do that, a lot of them, without hiring additional people. Some of them have even completely gotten rid of 90 to 100% of their team and have gone to external consultants and trade partners because they've figured out the magic in delegation and setting clear expectations and setting clear outcomes. You don't have to stick with an internal, someone that comes into your office. You can go to trade partners, consultants, even virtual assistants, and you can be a lot more competitive by setting your business up to have those extremely low overheads, but delivering good value.
One of the things we're big on here is freedom, right? So there's 3 words: freedom, impact, and wealth. And there are a few things that come to mind just thinking about some of our clients. Mikhail Ganaj, I received a note that he has caught more weight in fish in the past 2 years than he did in the first 50 years of his life. They're able to travel across the country and spend time with their family. There's another couple in the CEO Alliance. I think they bought an RV, and they're planning on taking an RV tour with their 2 young kids, Ashley and Andrea Fleschner, who were on the podcast a while back. They spend 1 week a month in California with one of their parents, and their business is in Oregon, I believe, or Washington.
Yeah, like blows Hawaii this month. That's where
Hawaii. Okay. People are traveling. People are taking 2-week vacations. It works. It is definitely a source of freedom, and it's the unlock. I think it really is the unlock, is being able to delegate to your team effectively. And the nice thing is, it's not that hard. It may be uncomfortable, but it's not that hard to do when you have the right systems in place. So great stuff. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys taking the time to be on here and sharing. Appreciate the great work you guys do with our clients. I know they do as well. So we're going to wrap this up. For folks listening, we have some resources to share with you. If you want some help putting these things in place, we may be a good fit. So stick around and you'll find out how to take the first step to see about working with us. Leyah, Monish, thanks. And I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks in Miami.
Sounds good. Thanks, Todd.
See you then.
And hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details over at constructionleadingedge.com/podcast. And if you get value out of this podcast, would you do me a favor? Would you please leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you own a construction business and you feel stuck, or you feel like you're spending too much time in day-to-day firefighting, maybe dealing with all of the problems, if everything's stuck in your head, or if you just don't feel like you have time or energy to work on your business because you feel like you're stuck working in it, if you want your business to run without you so you can take a vacation, or maybe to be able to sell your business one day, or if you just frankly want the business to survive if something happens to you, then there are 4 crucial systems that you need to have in place. Number 1, if you're a home builder, remodeler, or commercial general contractor, you have to get paid for estimates. Those free estimates are killing your bottom line, sucking the life out of you. And you can get all the tools you need to get paid for estimates, the templates, sales scripts, pricing guidance, and let's face it, the confidence that you need. You can get all of that for free right now over at constructionleadingedge.com/start. You'll get the entire Get Paid for Estimates masterclass. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/start. You can get all of that for free. The second crucial system is that you need to design your business for the future. You need to establish the major functions of your business and the results that each function is accountable for. You need to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. This is the foundation of every successful business, and the best way to do that is to design your accountability chart for the future. Number 3, you need to design and document your process to nail the handoff from the office to the field. This is a very disciplined and documented process that maps out every step of the pre-construction process. Look, companies that are good construction companies are actually good pre-construction companies. They're good pre-construction companies. And when you design your Nail the Handoff process and you have this in place, this is going to eliminate 80% of the profit bleeds and the schedule delays and chaos on your job sites. And you'll also need to learn the secret sauce for getting your team to actually implement and follow a process. Number 4, the 4th crucial system are the leadership systems that your team will use to convert your goals into reality. Look, somebody needs to be planning tomorrow's work today. Someone needs to be doing a 2-week look ahead. Someone needs to be establishing the most important things for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And you need to be having regular team meetings that are actually functional. Those are your leadership systems. And if you would like our help putting those crucial systems in place in your business so that your business can run without you, so you can get out of day-to-day firefighting and take that firefighter hat off, or if you want to be able to sell your business one day, Here's the next step. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply and schedule a free business evaluation call with our team. On that call, we're going to do a few things. We'll help you uncover the real root causes of your problems. Number 2, help you get clear on your objectives that you want to accomplish. And then number 3, to map out a plan to make it a reality. We'll also share with you some of the things that our construction business owner clients are doing to accomplish their goals and solve the problems that you're probably dealing with. And then if you're a fit, if it looks like we have a good mutual fit, we'll discuss our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So to schedule your free business evaluation, head on over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY. Hey, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.